everybody.
Hello and welcome everyone on the Information Technology and Service Management PCB webinars. My name is Vlad Shala, the PCB organizer of this webinar, and today's topic is governance, the missing compass in a technology changing world. This webinar will be presented by Mr. Oladapo Ogundeji. Mr. Oladapo is the Chief Technical Officer at Digital Jewels. Mr. Ogundeji is also PCB partner and has more than 20 years of experience. Please, if you will have any question during the webinar, you may use the option to raise your hand, or you can write your question in the question box in the right hand control panel, and Mr. Dapo will answer to them accordingly in the end of the webinar. Mr. Dapo, you may start the presentation.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be handling this webinar session, IT Governance, the Missing Compass in a Technology-Changing World. It's going to be a brief session, and I believe it will be very, very impactful. A bit about me. I'm currently the Chief Technical Officer of Digital Jewels, ICT consulting and capacity company based in Nigeria, Africa. I have been working in technology, both at operational management and executive level for quite some time. So I'm hoping I will be able to share from the little interaction as a consultant I've had with various companies, both in the private sector and in the public sector. Furthermore about me, showing my span of career and also a bit about the various roles I have held in the past. A little bit about my qualification. As a consultant, I have a voracious, so it means I tend to read a lot, and therefore I have these certifications. I will just mention that with regards to IT governance, I have the certification in COVID, which is one of the frameworks for IT governance. I'm also certified ISACA member with the various certification listed, the CISA, CISM, and CGIT, which talks about governance. My agenda for today, an overview of IT governance, benefit of IT governance implementation, approach and methodology. We'll just touch on that a bit. We will not be going so much into all the details. Then we'll also mention the critical success factors that are necessary for us to engage in this particular initiative of IT governance, missing compass in our environment. So a brief overview of IT governance. I'm sure many of us have heard about IT governance in various flavor, so I will not bore us much about the technical details. I'm just going to create a backdrop of what governance is about, and possibly we might even identify what governance is not about. First, governance looks at creating a decision-making framework. It allows the organization to be able to respond with regards to technical or IT initiatives, operations, management, and overall direction setting for the business. IT governance is often regarded as a subset of corporate governance. So what it means is that it works within the parameters of corporate governance. Aspects of corporate governance can easily be extended to IT governance. It's just a formal process of defining the strategy of the IT organization, overseeing its execution to achieve the goals of the enterprise. One of the key things that IT governance emphasizes is the objectives and strategy of the enterprise. It is very, very key. It takes that as a pillar in trying to decide. So what it means is an understanding of the visions, the goals, the objective of the organization is very important, paramount for any IT governance initiative. Of course, with the proliferation of IT, technology being used in every aspect of the business, of the enterprise, it means there is increased complexity, of course, speed, interconnectivity, and globalization, which of course offers extraordinary opportunities, but at the same time also can involve some risk and some cost elements. What it now means is that a lot of organizations have to create a balancing act between the risk and huge cost versus the huge opportunity that technology provides as an enabler and even as a transformer of the business. So it's important that those are well identified. So why do we want to have IT governance? Of course, an easy response to that will be to maximize returns. As it's often been said, resources are finite, but the needs are infinite. So improve business results, grow revenues and earnings, manage cash flow, reduce cost of operation. Another opportunity it gives to us is increased agility. You are seeing the business making demands on IT. Therefore, IT needs to be agile enough to be able to respond and respond appropriately and in good time. Of course, we made mention that there will always be risk. IT governance is not going to be seeking to eliminate risk. Risk itself can also provide an opportunity if utilized adequately. So therefore, IT governance looks at trying to mitigate, or better still, optimize risk, looking at the sphere of security, continuity. Other aspect again you'll be trying to balance out is improved performance. When we're talking about improved performance, we're looking at it end to end. And one of the key benefits, end products of increased performance will be trying to ensure both customer and employee satisfaction. So it's very important, it's very key that we are able to improve and enhance both the customer, external perspective, and the employee, the internal perspective. Core competencies for IT governance, key areas that IT governance is going to be talking about, of course, supply-demand management, relationship, be it internal and external stakeholders, suppliers. A lot of IT organizations that are dependent on IT use a lot of outsource mechanisms to be able to deliver on their end products or services. So relationship management. Financial management is also very, very important. IT needs to have an understanding of the various drivers that influences and impact the IT cost. Portfolio management talks about the life cycle management with regards to infrastructure, applications, and services. How services are brought on board, how they are maintained, and how they are gracefully retired. Enterprise architecture talks about creating the framework, the skeleton that helps to define the possibilities of IT within an organization. Those key items mentioned helps to determine the IT operating model, and with that, organizations are able to make the positive impact they expect from IT governance. Of course, some of the things that are making IT governance a boardroom discussion, making it a very paramount necessity in our present world are the emerging technologies. The dynamism of technology is making us to ensure we have an adequate means of navigating within the mix of this emerging technology. Some of them I should be familiar with. Talking about big data, how information is managed, mined. BYOD, bring your own devices. Right now, I think there is BYOT, bring your own technology. Because the increase, expansion of technology covering all this span with regards to mobility has made it very, very important that you need to have in place a governing or governance mechanism to manage and ensure adequate productivity. You're having mobile workers, people that want to work from home at every location on the go. Of course, security as a result of the movement to cloud. Right now, you're having a lot of organizations moving to the cloud environment, be it the private cloud, the public cloud, and the hybrid cloud. Then you have decision supporting systems, things using Forex, lending, the stock exchange market, various decision supporting instruments in organizations, artificial intelligence being brought in. You need governance to be able to manage the impact, the utilization of these technology. With regards to part of bringing it all together, crowdsourcing, looking at employees through various remote distributed channels, desktop virtualization, you're having very thin clients being brought in, an attempt to almost eliminate the desktop environment and having people run applications from a browser-driven end. Of course, with the scale of IT being expanded, it means we need to have a mix, both hardware, software. And when you talk about identity access management, you need to manage issues with privacy, information security. You need to protect, and of course, you need to monitor. Those are very key points that helps us to know that we need IT governance in our environment, and it is very, very much needed. The benefits of IT governance. I will start by mentioning some of the issues that have occurred. So perhaps if we see some of the tragedies, it will further enhance or push home the point that IT governance is the needed compass in the emerging environment we find ourselves, and especially for the executives, they need it to be able to drive home or achieve on the mandate of the organization. These are various examples. Of course, Ford Motors, they are abandoning a $400 million purchasing system. Various organizations. Some of the statistics that it shows aligns, finds out that 60 to 70% project failures. Another statistic says 25 to 40% of spending on IT projects are wasted down the drains as a result of rework. IT governance helps to manage, helps to minimize such issues. This is a bit of a lots of items on this particular slide, but I'll just pick the key things I want to highlight. It helps to direct planning, control, demand, and of course also with regards to supply. So it's very, very key that we are able to see how IT interacts and interfaces with the various aspects of the business, be it with regards to making new decisions, talking about lack of IT resource transparency, talking about cost reduction, talking about governance of outsourced contracts, talking about SLAs within the environment. Some of the expected outcomes of taking on an IT governance initiative, the benefits that the organization is going to be trying to derive. We're going to be talking about tighter IT business alignment, reduced operational criticality or risk factors, as I made mention. You will not be looking at eliminating risk, but trying to reduce, mitigate those risk factors. Of course, improved value delivery, enhanced resource management for IT, improved performance management because you have metrics that have been defined and can be adequately measured. Improved IT coverage. It's very important that the coverage of IT is holistic in the organizations. A lot of times we get organizations where you have some strategic business units, some using IT, some not using IT, so silos within the organization. Then IT governance also integrates with other best practices, which to me is one of the beauty of IT governance. It aligns, ensures that integration. Tangible benefits, when you're looking at it, you'll be talking about cost avoidance, trying to look at areas where you should stop, avoid those costs. We'll be talking about cost reduction. Then at the same time, you're looking at efficiency gain. So I'm pretty sure it is an easy sell, or it will be an easy sell for us in our organizations to go ahead and pitch IT governance to the business, because we're giving the business the opportunity for that alignment, for that cost reduction, and of course, cost avoidance. Moving to the implementation methodology and approach. As I said, we will not be going much into the technicalities. We'll just be highlighting the key aspects of IT governance approach and methodology. We're talking about two main frameworks or standards. COVID-5, which is from the stable of ISACA framework. This is the 5th version. The last version was COVID 4.1. Some of us might be familiar with it. And we now have ISO 38500, which just got updated last year. So we have ISO 38500 2015 edition. COBIT has 5 key principles. The principles are meeting stakeholders' needs, covering the enterprise end-to-end, applying a single integrated framework, enabling a holistic approach, and separating governance from management. The principles of COBIT helps to ensure that there is that easy alignment, easy interface of the principles with regards to the business objectives. And it's very, very key that in every of these principles that we are applying in the environment, we are realizing benefits, we are optimizing risk, and of course, we are also optimizing resource utilization. In separating governance from management, COBIT has been able to create 2 areas, which is the governance area and the management area. The governance area, which has 1 domain, which is often referred to as the EDM, which is the evaluate, decide, and monitor. And the management, which looks at the plan, the build, the run, and the monitor. Often you get the acronym PBRM. The principles of COBIT also has what we call the enablers in COBIT 5. The enablers, which are 7 of them, have been shown in the diagram, from principles, policies, and framework, all the way to people, skills, and competencies. You can easily see that from this, it touches on various aspects, both the hard aspect, we'll be talking about services, infrastructure, application, and you'll be talking about soft aspect, culture, ethics, and behaviors, information, and also organizational structure. COBIT has created 37 processes divided, as I made mention, within the governance and the management areas. These are further divided into 37 discrete processes, which can be divided into practices and further divided into activities, into over 1,001 detailed activities. 38500 2015 edition, the version before this was the 38500 2008 edition, corporate governance of information technology. It's applicable to various organizations, and it has 6 principles. Principle talks about responsibility. It needs to define who should do what and how that information should be passed along with the authorities. The strategy. I also talked about the acquisition. The acquisition could be a build, could be a buy off the shelf. It also talks about the performance, where we need to be evaluating how well we are doing. Conformance is very key because we have both internal and external regulation. We have internal policies we have to adhere to, and we have external regulators. We have contractual agreement. Then it also talks about human behavior. The model for governance of IT as prescribed by 38500 takes on the various business needs and pressures, looks at how governance sits along with the plans and policies, proposals, performance and conformance, and tries to create IT-enabled business change projects and also IT-enabled business operations. And it's very, very key that it's pretty well identified. Also, along with the IT governance implementation, just trying to give a flow to it, I'll typically recommend that you first set up or conduct an assessment. Digital Jewels, we are very familiar with this. Currently, actually, running 2 projects along this particular line. And one of the things we have been able to gather from our experiences at the field is a need to perform a gap assessment, trying to find out how far you are from the requirement and expectations of whatsoever framework or methodology you want to adopt. Then after that, you go ahead to set up the framework, which looks at the roles and responsibilities, the communications, and the management structure. Then you design the processes. The processes, we'll be talking about the policies, the detailed processes, and the various key performance indicators and reporting requirements. Then you'll be moving over to the implementation tools, which are tools you'll use to execute the solutions and also to provide a feedback mechanism. Often we tell people an IT governance project, yes, within the simple definition of a project, it has a start and end, but an IT governance project really doesn't have a strict end because it's based often on what we call a continuous improvement plan. That is, once you're finished implementing, you repeat that cycle and you are able to, over a period of time, see remarkable changes within the organization. With regards to performing or taking on these initiatives, I will state that there are some critical success factors that are necessary. You need this to ensure you can make a bit of mileage within your organization when you are taking on an IT governance project. I will also mention some of the constraints. Clarity of purpose. IT governance project is not a magic wand. You will not use it as a silver bullet and ensure that you are pitching it to management as something that will solve all their problems. No, it is not or cannot be used in that line. Of course, you need executive and top management commitments obtained. You will, of course, need prompt approval because a lot of times when we are on the field, one of the things we've noticed, especially with some clients, is that at the design stage, things are documented, but in the implementation, there's a lot of delay in approving the policies, the procedures. And once you are beginning to have lengthy delays, it impacts the results of the gap assessment conducted. The management of business change, because there's going to be a lot of changes, you need to see how you can get people to easily buy in. So a lot of engagement with the business users, because I will not be regarding an IT governance project as strictly an IT project. It's really an enterprise or a corporate project. Then we will also be looking at focus. You need to focus on what you want to do, execute it, then enforcement. And that's why in IT governance, the aspect of control is important. Then measurable, achievable targets. As it's often been said, let our objective, our targets be SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Then over-engineer IT governance. There's sometimes some people want to get it right and they want to get it perfect. There's a difference between getting it right and trying to get it perfect. It's often been said that you can have analysis paralysis. That's over-engineering the IT governance process. So the next item talks about an evolution rather than a revolution. You don't create an upheaval in the organization. You get gradual buy-in, and over a period of time, you try to get it in. I remember the particular organization that approached us and they said, we want to implement IT governance and we want it all fully set up within a month. I will not advocate that approach. It should be more of an evolution over a period of time. And of course, you need competent resources, you need them to be available, and you need them to be in sufficient quantity. A lot of times with regards to some of these things, you need to take on some training to get people skilled and trying to ensure that they are speaking from the same table. Part of the constraints, things that could affect, impact an initiative like this, we'll be talking about senior management not engaged, it being regarded as a flawed project, a top management project. It is often and should be seen as a top management, senior management initiative. Poor risk management, so not understanding the potential threats that could impact it, be it resource, be it external or internal initiative, concurrent projects, or multiple projects running within the organization. Therefore, a lot of distraction. Poor strategic alignment, so not taking it head on with regards to the business and having the understanding of the major IT investment. And of course, ineffective resource management, so ensuring availability of the persons, the people, and what have you. That briefly ends my short presentation, and I believe I have been able to shed some light and possibly convinced several of us the need for IT governance and trying to ensure that we can get our business to run in it. And I believe with this, we will be able to navigate the murky waters of emerging technology and IT failures that may have plagued organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dapo, for this great presentation. I think was a good chance for all of us to learn new things. And now it's time for questions. We have some questions for you. The first one is, what are the major focus areas about, in fact, that make up IT governance?
Okay. The key major focus areas, I will say, with regards to IT governance, we'll be talking about resource optimization. Because IT has limited resources, you have to optimize those resources, trying to get more with less. Another aspect will be risk optimization. The result of using technology throws in some risk. Risk could be both internal generated or external. Security risk, vendor risk, outsource risk, and various global types of risk. Then of course we'll be talking about benefit realization. The business is interested in the benefits. They are not interested in the ones and the zeros, the bits and the bytes. They are not interested in whether it is TCP or IPNet we are using as a protocol, but they are interested in service, and that's why benefit realization is very, very key. Those three key aspects are the pinnacle with regards to IT governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the attendees has asked, what are the biggest mistakes that companies make when it comes to IT governance?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I will be speaking from someone that has been involved in several IT governance projects, currently actually managing one now. One of the key things I will highlight is trying to use IT governance as a silver bullet. So it's a very, very great mistake that people make. IT governance interacts and interfaces with other frameworks and standards. So one of the key things I try to do for our clients is help them identify how IT governance easily sits with other frameworks, e.g. an ISO 27001, a PCI DSS, sits with ISO 20000, sits with a TOGAF, sits with other frameworks that you might have out there. So you use IT governance as a glue to this framework. You do not discard these other frameworks. Another thing I see as a major issue is taking an IT governance as an IT project. Yes, it's an IT governance, but a lot of business buy-in is needed. So once you are having IT at the steering committee only, then you're already having some key risks. You need to have the business users in as part of the IT governance project. Those two things are two issues I get to see in the implementation of IT governance that have a lot of issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question is, what are the relationship among COBIT 5, ICO 20001 and ICO 28500?
Okay. That last one you mentioned, 28, I will assume you're actually saying 38500. The alignment of all this with IT governance tries to ensure that those players you made mention of, e.g. 27001. 27001 is the ISMS, which is Information Security Management System. There's actually a whole process given to security by COBIT, which talks about managed security. With regards to the governance, the first 5 processes in COBIT 5.0 talks about the governance perspective, alignment. They are using the acronym EDN01 to EDN05, which is the evaluate, detect, and monitor. So there's actually a lot of alignment, and there is a mapping of those alignments. I can easily share that alignment or mapping with anyone that requires it. My email address is on the slides, and I can actually show you a more technical mapping of those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dapo, for answering the questions, and I want to thank all the attendees as well for joining us this webinar. I hope you really enjoyed this webinar, and you can check this webinar recorded and view the presentation slides on our website www.pcb.com. Please be informed that next Monday we are hosting another webinar titled Data Processing and Business Continuity in 2040. Thank you again, and in the end I want to thank all of you, and until the next Monday I wish to have a good time. Bye bye.